Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and it's time for Nitro's Take My Take on Elimination Chamber 2020. It took place on March 8th, 2020 from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is just my opinion, my take on all the happenings and what went down during the card. I found it interesting. I have the Elimination Chamber event page up on Wikipedia. This event is also known as No Escape in Germany. It has a completely different name to it. The reason why, since 2011, any Elimination Chamber pay-per-view has been promoted as No Escape in Germany, as it was feared that the name Elimination Chamber may remind people of the gas chambers used during the Holocaust. So, there you go. The more you know. I think I had read something about this back in the day, but, I don't want to say quickly forgot about it, but, was reminded, I should say, of that. It's kind of a bizarre undertale to the entire night here, but here is my opinions on everything. So the Raw brand kicks things off with a tag team match where we have the Viking Raiders versus Zack, Ryder, and Curt Hawkins. This feels like a Monday Night Raw booking. It feels like a Monday Night Raw television show at this point. Nothing special in this match. The Viking Raiders win with the Viking experience after a Ivar knee strike on Zack Ryder. Must have missed something because Twitter was raving all over it. I thought that this match was quite boring. The runtime for it was 4 minutes and 50 seconds. But, Twitter was going nuts over this, so feel free to put it up in the comments below. What did you see in this opening contest here that I didn't? Because I thought it was quite boring, and I didn't see anything special at it whatsoever, but yet I go on Twitter and everybody was raving about it, so. Then it is time to get into the main pay-per-view, and it starts with Daniel Bryan taking on Drew Gulak. This match itself, the runtime for it went 14:20, and I have at the beginning of my notes here, could be a match of the night candidate. At the end of the day, this was the match of the night. Really great technical start, and the crowd is into it right off the top. Gulak, he got a little bit of a mouse from a misplaced kick from Bryan a little bit earlier on in the match, just under his eye, and the guys trade submissions after Bryan rolls out to the outside to kind of reassess the situation. If you haven't seen this match, please make an effort to go. If there's one match off this entire card that you need to see, it would be this one. It was every bit as entertaining as again, the runtime 14:20 will allow, as 15 minutes will allow in the match, and actually it felt a lot longer, which is awesome. But it felt like also no time at all. Like, I want to see these guys go at it again for sure. Gulak with the helicopter neckbreaker for 2. Both get dumped out fighting over a suplex attempt, and then a 2 count from a Saito style suplex by Drew Gulak. This starts Bryan kind of milking the neck and head issues, and of course the storyline here is that Gulak was watching tape of Bryan going into this match and going into this entire thing, and said that he has found some weaknesses with Daniel Bryan, and he was trying to exploit them a little bit. So Daniel Bryan gets a 2 count off of a dragon suplex. Gulak then hits a release German, and Bryan takes a wicked bump on his shoulder. Only 2 though for Drew Gulak. Bryan then fighting back with the S-kicks. Drew Gulak then hits a hangman's neckbreaker, and he floats over into a Gulak attempt. But Bryan counters, rolls through, hits the S-lock for the submission victory. This is a match of the night contender. It's the match of the night all throughout. Mark that one down. And I hope to see these guys under, a longer time limit at Mania if they decide to continue to program. Maybe a 30-minute Iron Man. I think these two could equal what Angle and Benoit did at WrestleMania 17 in Houston back in 2001, if given the correct amount of time and that stuff. But yeah, this was just it's the best match of everything on the card. If you haven't seen it, that's the one match you can log into the network and go check out, or through other means, however you watch and consume your WWE content or wrestling content. Check this match out. This was every bit as spectacular as people were making it seem online. It's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. Up next, the U.S. title, Andrade taking on Humberto Carrillo. Andrade coming off of the wellness violation, and he gets a crack at the man who put him out with the hammerlock DDT from Monday Night Raw. Spinning back elbow from Andrade to start, only 2, so a very hot start to begin with. The match had some good lucha spots. The two then exchanged a ton of near falls. Zelina Vega paying off big time on the outside. She pulls back the padding, and Andrade attempts to DDT Humberto on the outside on the concrete, but that's denied, kind of harkening back to the storyline and how it started to kind of lead to this moment. Humberto then gets a 2 count off of the crossbody. Almost though, Andrade gets the dirty pin, rolling him up and getting a free count, hooking the tights for the finish, so he retains the U.S. title. The runtime for this match was 12:20. Lacking in this match was no involvement from the Angel Garza. I thought that they would maybe kick that off in high fashion, because the rumor is it's going to be a fatal 4-way for the U.S. title at WrestleMania with Andrade, Carrillo, Angel Garza, and Rey Mysterio. And also no involvement from Mysterio either here. It kind of was lacking a little bit, but as a wrestling match goes, it was a decent follow-up. That first hour of the pay-per-view between Gulak and Bryan and Humberto and Andrade, 2 really good matches, lucha style on one, technical style on the other, but both great kind of micro capsulizations, if you will, of what wrestling is like in 2020. I got this written down already. 2 great matches already changed the perplexion of this pay-per-view. Well, yeah, of course. The opener was pretty soft, pretty lame, but it does establish a big point for later on. It was more storyline driven than if that was the case, or storyline necessary if that was the case. And then this thing is more along the line. Well, this entire first hour was just 2 great matches and 4 guys trying to go out there and set match of the night honors. And like I said, Drew and Daniel ended up getting that. Bryan and Gulak ended up getting that. We then roll into the Elimination Chamber match number 1 for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. And all the teams listed, you see them all here in the graphic that are involved in this thing. Miz and Morrison are the champions walking into this thing. New Day and the Usos start a massive match, a massive rivalry to open. And of course, the New Day still stuck with Big E and Kofi as their alignment, as Xavier Woods is still out with the injury. So both teams wrestle to a standoff prior to the Chamber countdown. And in the Lucha House Party of Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik are in, who themselves work as a trio that can kind of swap members in and out, but they're forced to a tag team alignment because of the injury to Kalisto right now at this time. So, pretty interesting. Those are going to be 2 big key factors in SmackDown's tag team division when they return back off of injury. Kalisto and Xavier Woods. Right off the bat, Lince Dorado kind of thrown into the chamber, and he scales up to the very top of the of one of the pods. Kind of playing up to the cat nickname then. And then Lince and Gran Metalik kind of crawl up on the same pod, and they hit huge crossbodies, one on the Usos and one on the New Day. It was a wow moment. Miz and Morrison then enter. They are the defending champs. They just start buzzsawing everybody. However, a giant Hurricane Rana from Metalik on Miz only nets a 2, and then that brings in Heavy Machinery as the countdown hits to 0 to bring them in. Meanwhile, while that's going on, Lince Dorado jungle jumps to the top of the chamber, and he hits a massive shooting star press on everyone. It was one of those oh my god moments of the entire night. While that's going on, though, that allows Heavy Machinery to hit the compactor on Gran Metalik. 1, 2, 3, and the Lucha House Party is the first team eliminated. Rude and Ziggler are in, and this leads to the inevitable Otis versus Dolph confrontation and the story they've been telling on SmackDown over the past few months. Dolph tries to escape by climbing up. Tucker intercepts and throws Dolph down to Otis, and then Tucker hits like a crossbody of his own off the top of the pod. That's a big dude flying through the air. And then Otis tries to big splash Dolph into a pod, but he smashes right through the plexiglass door of the pod and out through the back of the chamber, through the plexiglass back of the chamber. Or, I guess the pod itself was open, because once that sides with the new chamber, once the sides open, the back of it kind of pops open too. It's like a giant, not Jenga set, but what was a Connect set, if you will, if you had those as a kid, kind of thinking of the same thing if you had Connects. I was more of a Lego guy myself. Anyway, Otis laid out on the outside, and that allows Bobby Roode to hit the glorious DDT. That eliminates Tucker for the 1-2 free count, the pin count, and Heavy Machinery is out. Immediately right thereafter, the Uso splash from the top of the pods ends up tossing Roodes and Ziggler with a 1-2 free count, so they're out as well. So we got 3 teams left: the Usos, Miz and Morrison, and the New Day. Kofi goes for a crossbody off the top of the chamber, misses, allows Miz and Morrison to get the 1-2 free count. Usos and Miz and Morrison are left. Miz hits the skull-crushing finale for only 2, and then Morrison hits a Starship Pain while Miz has one of the Usos in a figure 4 leg lock. So it's a Starship Pain figure 4 combo. I know, mind-boggling. I was like, what is he doing? Only 2. And then super kicks by the Usos and only 2. But that leads to kind of an underwhelming finish with the tandem dirty roll-up pin by Miz and Morrison getting the 1-2 free, and Miz and Morrison retaining the belts. The tag team chamber match as a whole, I thought, was kind of underwhelming. It was kind of the same thing as the 2015 Royal Rumble. When Daniel Bryan got tossed, the crowd kind of lost interest. And this, ironically, was in the same building. When Otis and Tucker got bounced from the match, the crowd kind of lost notice in this thing, and you can hear them kind of visibly kind of die out as the match continued. Miz and Morrison retain. Is there a split between both of them leading into WrestleMania? Are they teasing a tag team split angle, or are they defending the belts in, I would say, a triple threat with the Usos and the New Day? Those are your 2 highest profile teams right now on SmackDown, and if there's going to be an inevitable singles match on the pre-show or whatever for Mania between Otis and Dolph Ziggler, over the Mandy Rose storyline to bring that to a conclusion, we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, kind of a meh match. But the problem was, it was the better of the 2 chamber matches, as I'll talk about a little later on. The announcement: Stone Cold Steve Austin returning to Monday Night Raw on Monday, March 16th. So Austin will be on Raw on 3/16/20. Nice. No disqualification match up next. Alistair Black taking on AJ Styles. This entire program is 100% Paul Heyman. It's got Paul Heyman's creative all over this. Much more the same from Monday. Gallows and Anderson getting involved. Black, though, fighting back. He pulls out a table on the outside, but Styles has a chair and he pulls it out and uses it. He grabs one from the timekeeper's table and uses it. Match then starts to get a tad better with some weapon play, I thought. A phenomenal forearm for 2. Black fights back again, a moonsault for 2. Black then goes for another, but Styles catches him. He does Undertaker's kind of throat slashing gesture and with the tongue, and looks like he's going to go for the Tombstone pile driver, but Black fights out of the Tombstone. The 2 battle to the outside, but then Black hits a Meteora from the German announce table to the one he had set up earlier. Amazing. The OC swarms the ring. Of course, this is no DQ. Magic Killer by the OC. And then they set Black up for a repeat of last Monday, kind of what they were looking to finish him off with. And then all of a sudden, you hear the Undertaker's gong, and the lights come back up after going dark, and Gallows and Anderson are goozled by the Undertaker, and there's no sign of Alistair Black. He's kind of rolled out of scene here, and AJ tries to go for a phenomenal forearm on the Undertaker, but Taker at the last minute catches him with a choke slam and drops him. Black Mass by Alistair Black right after the Taker gong hits again, and Undertaker disappears into that night. 1-2 free. What a hot finish. Good match. Real hot ending. And the crowd went a banana. Edge is back on Raw tomorrow night in Washington, D.C., so the Edge-Orton storyline gets fed a little bit more fuel to the fire going into WrestleMania. Maybe an official match announcement between the 2 of them for WrestleMania, and maybe we'll find out if this has any stipulations to it or not. The Raw Tag Team titles are up next. The Street Profits take on Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. I'm unsure if I'm a fan of this newly minted heel king on commentary. I don't know what he was going for tonight, but he kind of came off as just douchey old man Jerry Lawler more than anything else. I think if he just stayed being the goofy king that he was, I think we'd be a lot better for it. He shouldn't be in that seat to begin with, but that's another thing. What Vince wants, Vince gets, right? So anyway, this match was pretty much fair to Midland for most of it. The Viking Raiders took out AOP, who walked out, of course, with Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy while the match is going on. The Street Profits, of course, are the tag team champions. They won it on Monday from Rollins and Murphy, and this was the rematch, a contractual rematch for this pay-per-view for those belts. A double knee strike super kick combo on Montez Ford from Rollins and Murphy only lands 2. Rollins and Murphy actually as a team really flow very nicely together. It's almost a real carbon copy. And watching Murphy wrestle, it's like watching Rollins wrestle from 3 or 4 years ago. Kind of that hybrid junior heavyweight / heavyweight style. Then a situation arises while all 4 men are laid out in the ring. Kevin Owens makes his way to ringside through the crowd and kind of hops the barrier while there's one real passionate Seth Rollins fan just saying, "You suck," at Owens. Owens is just flat out ignoring her and just going through his whole deal. He leans up against the commentator's booth and he's eating a bag of popcorn, or a box of popcorn that's shaped like a bag of popcorn. Just snacking on it, kind of scoping the scene, seeing what's happening. Anyways, Dawkins and Rollins roll out and they continue to fight to the outside. And Rollins stares down Owens and Owens hits him with the popcorn. And that's a momentary distraction, allowing Dawkins to take him out. And Murphy gets buckle bombed into the barricade, and the Street Profits finally roll Murphy into the ring and hit the cash out for the 1-2-3. Post-match, Owens hits the stunner on Rollins to a huge pop from the crowd and walks out, popcorn in hand. I haven't been giving the times for the last few matches, so here we are. We're just going to take a quick time out here, and I'll get you caught up on what the run times were for these. Again, Viking Raiders defeated Curt, Hawkins, and Zack Ryder in 4:50. Daniel Bryan defeating Drew Gulak by a technical submission at 14:20, the yes lock. Andrade retaining the U.S. title over Humberto Carrillo with a 12-minute and 20-second match. The Miz and John Morrison winning the Tag Team Elimination Chamber match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship at 32:55. Alistair Black defeating AJ Styles with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson in a no disqualification match at 23:15. And in this one, the Street Profits defeating the Street Profits of Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford defeating Seth Rollins and Murphy for the Raw Tag Team Championship. They retain at 18:30. The next match was the 3-on-1 match for the Intercontinental Championship. The champion Braun Strowman walking in, taking on the team of Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. The runtime for this one was 8 minutes and 30 seconds. This was a unique 3-on-1 handicap rules here. Whoever gets the pin or submission is the new IC champion. Zayn spends the early parts of the match basically running from Strowman, picking his parts, kind of a great chicken blank heel here. Eventually ends up with the IC belt, ends up winning the match after a Kinshasa suplex haluva kick combo for the finish. The Freeman tandem, the Freeman faction was bigger than the one monster. And this is Sammy's first singles title on the main roster after a good, I want to say 6 years since he last held the NXT title after losing it to Kevin Owens. So it's Sami Zayn's first singles title since he was NXT champion back in 2015, and he lost the belt to Kevin Owens. That reign ended at 62 days, and so Sami Zayn is your new Intercontinental Champion. Remains to be seen. It's probably going to be Zayn versus Strowman for the IC title at WrestleMania, so we'll have to wait and see what sort of stipulations are involved in that one. Then came the match that got the main event spot, or at least it went on last. The Women's Elimination Chamber match for the number 1 contendership of the Raw Women's title. I feel like this is all a formality and that Baszler will get the win. Let's see if they change it up. Spoiler alert, they did not. Ruby Riott and Natalya to start, rekindling an old rivalry from a couple years ago. Natty getting nasty early and sending Ruby into a support, and then hooking up the sharpshooter. Ruby Doe counters and sends Natty into a pod. The next entrant is Sarah Logan. Starts off hot with double knees on Natty, and then Sarah then chases Ruby up the top of the pod, allowing for Natty to grab Ruby and deliver a powerbomb. Natty catches a knee, and Sarah hits a crossbody from the top of the pod. And then the next one to enter is the woman who would be Juggernaut or Buzzsaw here, Shayna Baszler. One could wish it was Sarah Logan, but it's Shayna Baszler. She locks in the Karafuda clutch on Sarah Logan. Logan is eliminated, and then she locks in the Karafuda clutch on Ruby, and Ruby is eliminated. So any confrontation in the ring with Logan, Ruby Riott, and Liv Morgan will have to wait until tomorrow because they didn't do it on the pay-per-view. She wears down Natty and locks in the Karafuda clutch. Just bludgeoned Natty in the ring. Natty sold it like a champ. It was crazy. Natty's eliminated. She's still a rock star. Natty's still a rock star as a veteran now, and she's one of the best women they got on the roster. Like, don't let Natty go for whatever amount of money. Even when she retires, you sign her as a player coach, as an agent, because, man, she's one of the best things you got going night in and night out on the WWE roster is Natalya, for sure. Unfortunately, I found that they took way too much time in between chamber entrants here. Because it was kind of a similar thing to what Lesnar was doing at the Royal Rumble, where toss out or eliminate people, and then you end up going into basically dead space into the ring. There's nothing happening in that time. You have to wait for the time period to run out, and it's specific intervals. I can't remember if it was 5-minute intervals or what, but you still got, a minute and a half or 2 minutes of just dead time with nobody else in the ring, and she's just waiting there. She's staring down Morgan in her pod. She's staring down Asuka into her pod. Liv Morgan was the next to enter. Baszler intercepts her, and she is slammed against the pod, pendulum style by Baszler. Yeah, ouch. And then an elevated Karafuda clutch eliminates Liv Morgan. Asuka's the final entrant, and she doesn't fare much better. Asuka and Shayna Baszler are the final two. Asuka, of course, is milking that wrist injury that she got on the house show tour the weekend before. Asuka lock attempt on Baszler. No dice as Baszler rolls out. Baszler works on Asuka's wrist, eventually locks in the Karafuda clutch, and Baszler is victorious. The expected result, a very underwhelming match, sends us to black, and the pay-per-view is finally done. I found this pay-per-view to be very Jekyll and Hyde. The first hour was one of the best first hours of matches and wrestling that WWE has produced in a long time, followed by, the typical made-for-television storyline stuff that they overproduce on a weekly basis. You didn't get that special feeling watching this as you did, a weekend ago with AEW Revolution, that you were watching something historic, that something big was going to happen here. It was too predictable with the storylines and that stuff that Baszler was going to end up winning the chamber match. I think they're going to try and probably solidify that as part of her heel character a little bit, kind of the I told you show, so holier than thou submissions magician expert going up against Becky at Mania. And now there's a little bit of a direction with the SmackDown tag titles coming out of this, but there's no men's chamber match out of this for the chance to go take on Goldberg for the Universal title. It's all just assumed now. Well, it's in writing now that Roman Reigns and Goldberg are going to go one-on-one. There was nothing built towards that program tonight at all. It just seemed very, very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So I'll give this a 6 out of 10 because I really enjoyed what I seen in that first hour. And then slowly, as the night went on, it kind of wore down and down and down and down and down. But we have some of the card starting to take place for WrestleMania. Now, if the coronavirus doesn't kill us all, we might be able to have, I think, a fairly decent Mania card. It's not overly flashy, but I think the last time that a Dark Horse Mania card I thought delivered was 2011 with the Mania in Atlanta, because I didn't think that Mania card was lacking in any way at all. I think that just people were shocked with The Miz and John Cena main eventing a WrestleMania. I think that they proved themselves that night for sure, and I think that the potential is there for Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar again to really haul the mail in the main event spot for Mania this year as well, or even Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley as well. If you wanted to give that slot to them, you could do it. A lot of the support matches and undercard was established tonight. We know who Undertaker is going to face here. It's going to be AJ Styles. We know Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler now for the Raw Women's title is a signed, sealed, and delivered thing. So add that to the Mania card. And, we'll wait and see how everything else kind of shapes up in the wash going through to WrestleMania in Tampa this year. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Later days, happy wrestling watching. I'm Kellen Nitro. Thanks for checking out the channel. Like, subscribe, dislike. But if you dislike, comment. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me what you loved about this. Even with the show itself, like or dislike, let me know, so I can continue to improve on this product and make it something that you guys would love to come back and maybe potentially support financially one day. We'll get to that later on down the line. And by the way, I'm freshly shorn too, so it feels good to get the air on my face a little bit and that stuff. So later days, happy wrestling watching. Catch you next time.